Okay, so I'm sorry that I had to get off. This is really kind of frustrating that I have to stop every 15 minutes, but okay. So I know that this is a little bit confusing, but whenever it says that we need to express something in terms of a positive acute angle, all they're saying is we need to rewrite this bigger angle in terms of the smaller one that it's related to in the first quadrant. So you might see a question like this on a test. It might say, you know, express the sine of 140 degrees in terms of the positive acute angle, and literally this would be your answer, the sine of 40 degrees. That's it. They would never ask you to find the exact value of something because you don't know what the exact value of the sine of 40 degrees is. You do know what the exact value of the sine of 30, 45, and 60 degrees is. So in that case, they would ask you what's the exact value. You would get to this step and then go one step further and say, all right, the sine of 30 is blah, blah, blah. Okay, so at this point, though, all they really wanted you to do was use your reference angle formulas to kind of rewrite that. So let me just, I'm going to erase this stuff. Maybe you get this already, maybe you don't, maybe you're confused. So this is kind of annoying that I can't tell if you understand this or not. So I'm just going to go over it one more time really quick. If you get it, then just skip ahead. Okay? So sine of 140 degrees. Okay? I'll make this right here so that I don't have to keep rewriting it. Sine of 140 degrees. What you do is figure out which quadrant 140 degrees is in. 140 degrees is in the second quadrant. So the first thing I need to know is sine positive or negative in that quadrant. Well, in this case, sine is positive, so I can just write it as sine. Positive sine. Then I need to use my reference angle formula for the second quadrant to figure out 180 minus what gave me 140. Well, 180 minus 40 gave me 140, so this is equal to the sine of 40 degrees. Okay? Cosine of 250, which quadrant is 250 degrees in? 250 is down here in the third quadrant. And unfortunately, this time cosine happens to be negative down here in this quadrant, so I'm going to write negative cosine. And then I'm going to use the third quadrant reference angle formula and say 180 plus what gave me 250, and that happens to be 70 degrees. So this is equal to negative cosine of 70 degrees. And then the last one, 300 degrees, is down here in the fourth quadrant. So tangent happens to be negative in the fourth quadrant, so I'm going to write negative tangent. And then let's figure out what cousin it is related to that's positive and it's in the first quadrant. So you look at your reference angle, 360 degrees, or 360 minus what gives me 300. 360 minus 60 gives me 300. So that's the negative tangent of 60 degrees. Hopefully that helps a little bit. I'm sorry I had to rush through that the first time. Okay. So far, let me see what else. So far we had to learn a lot of new things today. So let's kind of just go back and just review some of this stuff. From your magic table, we're going to fill this in together. So you're going to write sine, cosine, tangent. This is kind of like a longer version of the magic table because it includes other angles as well. Sine, cosine, and tangent. So your magic table, the ones that we learned before, those are only 30, 45, and 60. That's right here. Okay? So I'm going to just do those values first in my table because I know those right off the top of my head already because I know how to do the magic table. Okay? So you do 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. If you want to, you could pause it at this point and kind of try to do it by yourself. See if you remember. Just pause me. Shut me up. Okay? I'm going to divide everything through by 2. and then the 3's and 2's get radicals. Okay? Now, where did I learn, oh actually sorry, tangent 2. These are the ones that you just have to memorize. Tangent of 30 is radical 3 over 3. Tangent of 45 is the easy one because it's just equal to 1, and then this is radical 3. Okay, now where can I figure out what the sine, cosine, and tangent of 0, 90, 180, 270, and 360 are? Well, I could make myself a unit circle. And you should be saying, oh yeah, I remember that. I can do that. Then what am I going to do? I'm going to label my points. So my x is 1, 0, 0, 1. And I know that you're probably like, okay, yeah, I know how to do this, but you got to keep doing it. You got to keep practicing it because it's really, really, really important. Okay, so now remember that the sine is the second value. So what's the sine of 0 degrees over here? Sine of 0 degrees is 0. The cosine of 0 degrees is 1. Now I'm going to look up here at 90. My sine is 1. My cosine is 0. Over at 180. My sine is 0. My cosine is negative 1. And then down here 270. My sine is negative 1, my cosine is 0, and then 360 is just the exact same thing over there, 0. Now, do you remember how we figured out what the tangent was? For tangent, anything along this line, so 0, 180, and 360, the tangent of anything on that line is the same as the slope of that line. So the slope of this line is 0, and it happens to be that the tangent of 0 is 0, and that the tangent of 180 is 0, and tangent of 360 is 0. Then we switch and we take a look at what's going on this line, and the slope of that line happens to be undefined. So 90 and 270 degrees have an undefined tangent. Okay, so that's how you would use these two resources, your magic table and the unit circle, to figure out all of those values pretty quickly. I think that we did that pretty quickly. So when you're taking your test, what I had kids do was, as soon as they sit down to take this test, do the magic table and draw your unit circle. If you want, you can make a bigger table just like the one that's on the screen right now, and you could fill in all of those values, and then for the whole test you don't even have to think about any of those values at all, which is pretty cool. Let's see what else Ms. Tompkins has. Okay. This, I think, was something very similar to like what you're going to see on your homework. So let's go through this together. So what we're trying to do is we're taking an angle that is not in the first quadrant, and then we're using our reference angles and stuff to figure out what this theta was, what theta was in the first quadrant, that what we call the reference angle. Okay? So if I have an angle that's 210 degrees, that's bigger than 180, so we are in the third quadrant. Now, what was the reference angle formula for the third quadrant? In the third quadrant, that is 180 plus theta. So 180 plus theta gives me 210. So what would theta be? Theta in this case is 30 degrees. Let's try another one. 330, that's in the fourth quadrant. That formula is 360 minus theta gave me 330. So what is theta? Theta is 30 degrees again. Interesting. Okay. 135. 135 is in the second quadrant. And second quadrant reference angle formula, that is 180 minus theta. That gave me 135. So what's theta? 180 minus 45 gives me 35, or 135. Okay? 300, that is in the fourth quadrant. So 360 minus theta gives me 300. So what is theta? Theta is 60. Okay, so I'm not going to do the rest. That's, I think, enough for you to figure out what's going on. If you want to finish them, you can pause it right here and just do 120, 240, and 225 by yourself to make sure that you know what you're doing. I think that there's a question like this on your homework, okay? I'm going to keep going. Okay, actually, you know what? That was the end of that section. That was the end of all of the new material that we had to do. So it looks like that's all that you had to do for today. So that was an hour and a half worth of stuff. Definitely a lot of stuff that we learned. What do I want you to do? I want you, this is the review of the sections, and I'm going to go through that in another video for you, and you can watch that instead of me meeting with you tomorrow. So let me think. How many minutes are left? Only 2 minutes left. Okay. Let's see what you had to do. Your homework. It says notes on reciprocal trig functions as well. I don't know. Okay, reciprocal trig functions are on there as well. So I'm going to go through reciprocal trig functions, I guess, with you tomorrow, and review, so that will be the end of that chapter for you. But I'm trying to figure out what homework she wanted you to do. Okay, this is homework page 331 to 332. That's homework number 77. I have it checked off that you did it, but I highly doubt that you learned that in class because I really don't remember you being there for that. So please just go through these and do them again. We can check our answers together the next time that I see you, or if you really want, you can email me and ask me for, I can email you the answers to the homework if you want, or we can just go over them together. Okay? So I think that I'm just going to take a guess and say that they're probably going to need me at the school longer tomorrow, so I think that we're not going to meet in class tomorrow. So I will just make another video for you either sometime tonight or maybe at some point tomorrow, and then post that for you as well. Okay, so that video will be reviewing everything that we learned so far and going over the last thing, which is reciprocal trig functions, but it sounded to me like you already knew what those were. That's secant, cosecant, and cotangent. So it already sounds like you knew what those were. So have fun doing this homework assignment. See you later.